What's up, guys, and welcome back to Le Mans Ultimate. I have been waiting for this game to get some updates, and it has now been 9 months since the game launched, and I made a pretty rough review on this game back in February. I was not impressed with it. I was pretty disappointed with a lot of the stuff that was missing from the game that I felt should have been there from the very beginning. But yeah, now the game's had some time to get some updates. We're going to talk about the content additions. We're going to talk about the physics. We're going to talk about the graphics and my overall experience with this game and how it has actually improved and how this game has won me over within the last 9 months. There's still some negative stuff, so this isn't going to be like some shill video where I'm just going to be like, oh, Le Mans Ultimate is the best game on PC right now, because it's not. It's still buggy in some ways, and I'll talk about that in the video itself. But let's start off with just the state of the game. We're going to talk about content first. That was one of my big complaints when the game first launched. There was literally no 2024 content. None of the new hypercars were in the game. The Alpine, the Isotta Fraschini, and the Lamborghini, and at the time the BMW. None of those were present in the game at launch, as well as no GT3 cars and none of the tracks that were set to be used in 2024. As well as the Garage 56 car, which I felt like was more of a wishful thinking kind of thing. Like, it would be really cool if they added this, but I didn't necessarily expect it to be in the game at launch. I was like, it would be kind of nice to have, though. But starting off with tracks, this one really kind of made me butthurt as time went on. I was just like, this game is based on rFactor 2 underneath. The game engine itself is literally rFactor 2. Why couldn't they have just taken the tracks from rFactor 2 that were able to be transferred into the game, that were actually being used in the wet calendar in 2024, and have them just straight ported over to the game for launch, and then they could redo the textures and stuff as time went on. Instead, it launched with just the 2023 stuff. It launched with just 2023 content. All the 2023 hypercars were on there. All the 2023 tracks were in the game, but they left out the 2024 content. All the tracks like Interlagos, Coda, Imola, and Qatar, stuff like that was not in the game at launch. And yeah, it would have been really nice for all those tracks that would have otherwise been in rFactor 2 to have been in the game at launch. It's just not what we got. The lack of GT3 cars to this day is very disappointing. It's been 9 months. I feel like the majority of these cars perform similar enough to where it would only be minor changes in the physics between the group, obviously with the exception of the Porsche and the Ferrari and the McLaren and the Lamborghini. All those cars have their engines in the back, but a lot of these GT cars are front engine, so I feel like the physics would be relatively similar between the group overall, especially with how tight the balance performance is in the GT3 class. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened, and I'm bummed about it, because I do think it's something that should have been addressed a long time ago, and these cars should have been added to the game months ago, especially considering there was already a handful of these GT3 cars that were in rFactor 2. Some of which aren't, and the grand majority of them aren't, but I believe a handful of these cars, specifically the McLaren, is already in rFactor 2, and would have been a relatively easy port to this game for, launch. And that may be what the case. They may have used the rFactor 2 version of that car and just set it up, and that just be, okay, we've got one down, we need to get the rest of the grid together. That could be, but I do hope the wait is worth it, and that when these cars get onto the virtual grid in LMU, that they are well worth the wait, and they drive great, and they look good. Time will tell, but I am disappointed at the lack of the GT3 cars. Another thing I want to talk about with the 2024 content, too, to close this off, is the fact that I disagree that they're behind a paywall. The fact that they're both paid DLCs is extremely disappointing, and I feel like that's stuff that should have been in the game at launch and should not be behind a paywall. I get Motorsport Games is in pretty dire need of the money. It's well known that they're going through some serious financial hardships right now, but it would be really nice to have had content that should have been in the game at launch, or at least free DLC. The BMW was free DLC, and I will give them props for that, but the Lamborghini, the Alpine, the Isotta Fraschini, all the 2024 tracks, all that stuff is locked behind a paywall. So that is one thing. And to close out this little segment here, since we're at Spa, it's a good-looking track, good-looking car, graphics. I don't know if it's because I switched from an RTX 3060 Ti to a RX 7800 XT, but the game looks a lot better, and I'm really impressed with it now. I would say it's definitely above iRacing in terms of graphical fidelity. It looks really good in comparison to iRacing. iRacing's not really supposed to be a good-looking game anyway. It's supposed to be a sim at heart, but this game definitely looks better than iRacing. But I do think that other games such as Assetto, and as much as I really hate this game, Forza Motorsport, the current Forza, looked better than this game. And obviously, Gran Turismo 7 is untouched when it comes to graphical fidelity right now. Assetto, of course, the Evo looks to challenge that, though. But anyway, that is my talking on content and graphics. Let's talk about my overall experience. So we're start off with a little bit of commentary on the bugginess, because it works out perfectly. Because this clip was supposed to be in an Aston Martin Vantage GTE, but the game still has some pretty nasty bugs. And while I was driving it around to set up the replay for the B-roll for that clip, the game crashed, and when it crashed, it took the replay with it. I didn't have a replay to access of that driving, which worked out for me anyway, because I wanted to showcase more than just the GTE cars and the hyper cars in this video. I wanted to show off LMP2 as well, so it worked out. I was like, you know what? Let me go get in the LMP2, one of the cars that got all their 2024 liveries, because I will say all the existing cars got their 2024 liveries, and brought out Spike as a big AO racing fan. A lot of you guys may know that if you follow me personally, but yeah, I had to get that car out. But yeah, there's still some serious bugs with this game, and I'm very disappointed that the majority of them haven't been quashed by now. I mean, it's been 9 months. There's still plenty of crashing issues I've had with this game. In fact, the very first time that this rig in 4 years of having this PC has ever blue screened was caused by this game. I was filming that clip with the Cadillac at Spa, and when I closed the game, when I was done with, doing the session and doing the replay and all that stuff, my computer blue screened, and when I pulled the crash file, it specifically pointed LMU as the cause. So, yeah, this is the game that finally made my, several $1,000 rig that I've spent 4 years with and upgraded numerous times to finally blue screen. It's crazy. I'm still in awe that just this random game could do that, but it is what it is. It was a kernel security check failure for those who were curious about the code. Anyway, there's still some bugs, and of course, like I said, this game crashed on me trying to make this video. This game is still buggy. It still crashes rather frequently. It is definitely a lot better than it was, because I used to not be able to get through, a 15-minute driving session of a game crashing, but it is actually performing really well now, and I will give them props. They've fixed a lot of the issues, but I would still love to see this game on the level that it should be, because I will say this game's primary competitor being iRacing. iRacing has never crashed on me, ever, whether it's in the very poor experience I've had in VR or the very poor or the very good experience I've had on just the monitor. It's been a very good experience with iRacing, so I feel like this game should be close to the polish of iRacing at minimum, let alone its predecessor, because rFactor 2 never gave me any troubles. So there's still a lot of bugs with the game. The menus are still a little bit slow at times. They've definitely fixed it. It's a lot easier to navigate the menus now. It's a lot faster, but it's still a little bit buggy, still a little bit laggy in the menus, and the load times are still awful. It takes so long, and I'm running an M.2. I mean, I'm running a Samsung 970 Evo Plus. I mean, it's not a bad SSD, and it's an M.2 drive. This game still takes a couple of minutes to load in a session, which is really disappointing, very disappointing. But overall, I will say that the experience has gotten a lot better. A lot of the bugs and complaints I had with the game have been squished, and there's still a handful of stuff left of the game. But it is what it is on that front. So let's talk about now, do I believe the game is worth buying, and do I have a positive opinion of this game now? So to answer the latter question first, do I have a positive opinion of this game now? I do. Like I said, when this game first came out, I had a lot of gripes with this game. In fact, I shelved it. I played about 2 hours in the game, just enough to where I can't refund it on Steam. Never played it again up until recently. I would put, maybe like 30 minutes in at a time, the game would crash, and I'm like, all right, this is why I stopped playing this game. But my experience has improved tenfold. And in fact, the last couple of days, I've put more time into the game within the last 2 to 3 days than I have since the game first launched, the first 3 months that I had this game. So if that says anything on how my opinions changed with this, I stopped playing GT7 to play this, and I've been pretty happy with the experience I've had, aside from the couple of crashes that I've had. I will say 2 crashes out of the 6 or 7 times I've launched this game in the last few days for long sessions. I'd say that's a pretty good ratio. Of course, it should be close to 0. There should be no crashes, but If I had to take some crashes, I think 2 is a good number to have, considering the amount of time I put in this game recently. And it's worth the money. I think now, with some of the updates, it is definitely worth considering buying. Obviously, if you're going to get one of these hardcore race sims, you've got ACC in the running, you've got Automobilista 2, you've got iRacing, you've got R Factor 2, you have this game's immediate predecessor. There's a lot of options, though, but I do think the game is worth buying, but definitely be wary of the DLCs. But thank you all for watching this video. I will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.